What's going on, everybody? Splatoon 3 is right around the corner as a release date is shown to be September 9th. Now, this is only a few months away, but there are still a lot of things that we do not know about the game. A lot of speculation has been going around, and a lot of people have been making weapon video analyses, but I am not a very knowledgeable online player. But even though I'm not the best, there's still a lot of things I love about Splatoon 2, and I have a ton of ideas of what I would love to see in Splatoon 3. So without further ado, let's get the list started with our favorite game mode, Salmon Run. Because what is there not to love about this game mode? It's challenging, there's progression systems, and there's ways to physically feel like you are getting better at it. It seems like there is no limit to how much Salmon Run you can play without getting bored. Such an amazing addition to Splatoon 2, so how can they possibly make it better in Splatoon 3? That answer is incredibly simple, just make an endless Salmon Run mode. There's a ton of people who love playing Salmon Run, but getting capped at 3 waves kind of feels like a drag sometimes. It would be so much more engaging to jump into Salmon Run with my friends and just play and play and play just to see how high of a score we can get before we fail. If you are familiar with Call of Duty Zombies, it will be exactly like that concept. They can even go so far as to add upgrades along the map like the Insta-Revive or the Pack-a-Punch. I mean, we already get so many of these orange power eggs, might as well make it a resource that we have to manage throughout the game. Now, I wouldn't expect this to replace the main game mode. Obviously, it's designed to run with 3s, especially if you're playing with random teammates, but it would allow the Salmon Run mains a way to flex how good they are at Salmon Run besides just surviving 3 waves a bunch of times in a row. Last thing I'll say about this topic is that they can even turn this into a weekly challenge, almost like League mode, where if you are the top team who gets the farthest number of waves, then you get a special extra reward at the end of the week. There's still a lot that we don't know about the new Salmon Run mode in Splatoon 3, so we'll just have to wait for more information. Next up on the list has to do with the online gameplay, and the most important change I think they should make is being able to switch your weapon mid-game. Obviously, Splatoon is not as tactical as something like League of Legends or Valorant. There's no weapons draft, there's no counter pick unless you guess what your opponents are going to play. There's really no need to lock us into one weapon type for the entire game. Sometimes the game feels like it's lost as soon as you realize what weapons are on your team. It wouldn't even have to be a super complicated system either. I mean, Splatoon players are very well familiar with the menus by now. It would be very easy to give us a sort of class system that we can just switch between. I think that allowing us to switch weapons in the middle of the game will make it a lot more fun to play multiple games at the same time. At the very least, we should have customizable gear sets. I shouldn't have to search through a ton of menus just to find the gear that works with the weapon I want to choose. And if I just had the ability to save a couple sets, it would make the process so much easier. And speaking of gear, the next item on the list is Super Sea Snails. Get rid of them. For the record, I will say that I like the Splatoon 2 gear ranking system. It's not nearly as random as Splatoon 1 was because we have the ability to use chunks. And as long as you're playing the game consistently, you can probably get any gear set you like in a reasonable amount of time. Which also brings me into my main problem with Super Sea Snails, which is they're a limited resource that you literally can't even get anymore. If you didn't get a chance to play the Splatfest, they're just gone. You're not going to get them anymore. And it's just really unfair to newer players to hide a resource behind an event that's going to end at some point. I will say I am very biased against this item because one time I accidentally deleted my main save data when I was resetting a speedrun. So that got rid of all of my gear and it got rid of all of the Super Sea Snails that I ever acquired across all the time I was playing Splatoon 2. And this completely crushed any interest I had in this game for a long time. All of that gear in the Super Sea Snails took a long time to get, and the fact that it's a limited resource that I'm never going to get again just made it impossible to enjoy grinding again. I guess my main takeaway is that Super Sea Snails are fine, it's just that they should be way more common outside of those timed Splatfest events. Obviously, no wish list would be complete for your boy TonesBalones if I didn't talk about the single player. But before I do, a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button if you want to see some more Splatoon 2 content and Splatoon 3 content in the future. I've been putting a lot of work into my videos lately, and I really appreciate all the support that comes to my channel. I have spent thousands and thousands of hours playing the single player in Splatoon and speedrunning it, so I have a lot of experience to speak towards what I want to see in the upcoming game. Some of which I'll probably save for another video, but there's 2 absolute no-brainers that I will bring up right now. One change I would like to see in the single player is having a more diverse open world. Nintendo has been absolutely killing it lately with their open world design, but up until this point, none of Splatoon 2's single player modes have allowed for much exploration at all. And while I do love the level designs being able to combine shooting and speedy platforming, I just think they should do more for rewarding the player for going outside their comfort zone or finding hidden puzzles. Right now, you're just limited to shooting orange boxes and balloons, and then one time per level you get to find a hidden scroll or a shiny fish. Of course, since I am a speedrunner, having a more open world design makes it a lot more fun to route and figure out the fastest way to complete certain levels. There just has to be a better system than going to a world, finding a bunch of hidden kettles, fighting a boss, going to the next world, finding a bunch of hidden kettles, fighting the boss, and it's just a cycle that gets kind of boring for a lot of players. On top of this, they need to continue the types of levels that we found in Octo Expansion. Those were so much fun. And yes, even the 8-ball levels. Octo Expansion provided a unique challenge that we never get to see in Splatoon. A lot of the levels are really hard, and I play them all the time. It is a huge step up from the original hero mode, where pretty much every level was jump around, get to the end, and leave. Even the overworld, the subway, is a lot more fun to use than the hero mode. The subway kind of lets you go in any direction you want. If you just want to get all 4 things so you can play as the Octoling, you can do that. And I really hope that we get this opportunity to make another bingo in Splatoon 3. But that can only happen if we have an open world. Now, it's finally time for my last wish on my Splatoon 3 wish list. And this one is extremely specific to me and the other Splatoon speedrunners. Before I tell you what it is, we first have to dive into a little bit of Splatoon 2 speedrunning history to understand why it is so important to me. In Splatoon 1, you meet the main bad guy of the series, DJ Octavio. He is an octopus that lives in a giant DJ cabinet, and he makes super fresh, funky beats. But that's not why you hate him. You hate him because he starts kidnapping people in order to make those funky fresh beats. But that's besides the point. The Splatoon 1 final boss was a really unique design. It kind of feels like an on-rails experience. The goal of the fight is simply to push Octavio backwards until you can hit him with a super weapon. Over time, the speedrun community discovered ways to skip certain parts of this fight to make it faster. So even though the fight is on rails, it never really feels like you can relax and take your time, because if you do, you might mess up. A couple years later, Splatoon 2 comes out, and surprise, surprise, DJ Octavio is back. Now, I honestly don't have a problem with reusing bosses. I think DJ Octavio is a great character, and he absolutely should be the final boss of Splatoon 2. But unfortunately, they ruined the fight. It's just really boring to be sitting in the same area, seeing the same attacks, and then shooting the same fist over and over again. But worse than that is the fact that DJ Octavio is completely random. Usually a little bit of RNG isn't that bad. I mean, if I have to fight the guy over and over again, at least they get something new every time. But unfortunately, when it comes to Splatoon 2, it's the bad kind of RNG. And by that I mean you're only allowed to actually hit Octavio if he sends the right attack that lets you hit him. If he straight up doesn't shoot the fist at you, there's nothing you can do besides wait for the next cycle. Overall, the difference between getting perfect RNG, which is all fist attacks, versus not great RNG, is about 2 minutes. And in a speedrun that's as optimized as Splatoon 2 is, you can't afford to lose 2 minutes in just the final boss because you get unlucky. It's just a really unfortunate outcome for an otherwise really fun speed game. The RNG was so bad in DJ Octavio that when Octo Expansion came out, we were cheering that there was a 9-minute auto-scroller at the end. You ever seen a speedrunner cheer for an auto-scroller? Because I haven't. It was just such a relief to find out that once you got to the end of the run, you were done. You didn't have to worry about getting lucky anymore. You just had to complete the game and finish it off. And with the history out of the way, it should be no surprise that my biggest and most important wish for Splatoon 3 is just to not have an RNG final boss fight. By all means, use Octavio. I'll fight him again. I don't care. I mean, he's already pretty much confirmed from the first trailer. I just really hope the fight isn't terribly bogged down by RNG. It would just be a bummer because I love speedrunning Splatoon, and I really hope that Splatoon 3 gives us a fun and engaging story mode to be able to make content for. And I'll do it regardless, but it would be a lot more fun if it wasn't random. Anyway, that's it for the video. Let me know down in the comments what are your wishes for Splatoon 3? Or what are some things that you've seen that you're extremely excited for? If you would like to see more Splatoon content or just more TonesBalones in general, you can follow me on Twitch for my live streams or on TikTok for some other random videos that I don't really care about. And as always, thank you for watching.